Hi, and welcome to another episode of SWITCHCast, a podcast delving into the world of film, brought to you by the team at Switch. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Charlie David Page.
I'm Jess Fenton.
I'm Daniel Lamon.
And I'm Brent Davidson.
It's Thursday, the 11th of January, 2018.
On this week's show, the award season kicks up a gear with the Golden Globes. We take a look at the winners and dissect the hell out of them.
Some films should have never been made. Some of these films even get sequels. We look at why we keep making such bad sequels for such bad films.
According to hashtag fake news, Trump spends 17 hours a day devouring the Gorilla Channel, and now it seems the rest of the world wants it too. But what else do we want to watch on an endless cycle? The team weighs in, and Brent is off his leash. Look out.
And as always, all our reviews and giveaways.
Well, let's get straight into it with The Post, the latest film from Steven Spielberg, and his first of two offerings for 2018. Chris went to check it out and filed this review for us.
Made at a breakneck pace over just 9 months of the past year, Steven Spielberg's The Post urgently dramatises the momentous events surrounding the Washington Post's publishing of the Pentagon Papers. Thousands of pages of multiple decades worth of government secrets exposing cataclysmic lies about America's involvement in the war in Vietnam. But what makes this particular historical epic so especially thrilling and timely is in how it rightly becomes the story of a single, complex, powerful woman making a momentous decision, as it hones in on Katharine Graham, the Post's first ever female publisher, here brought vividly to life by the legendary Meryl Streep.
Do you have the papers?
Not yet.
This is a devastating security breach that was leaked out of the Pentagon. The most highly classified documents of the war.
The Times has 7,000 pages detailing how the White House has been lying about the Vietnam War for 30 years. The way they lied, those days have to be over.
Okay, people are concerned about having a woman in charge of the paper, that she doesn't have the resolve to make the tough choices.
Thank you, Arthur, for your frankness.
If we don't hold them accountable, who will?
We can't hold them accountable if we don't have a newspaper.
Nixon will muster the full power of the presidency, and if there's a way to destroy you, by God, he'll find it.
It is so rare and wonderful to see a watershed moment in history framed as the self-discovery and self-realization of a truly fascinating woman. And Streep, the actor who I personally believe to be the greatest performer currently living, come at me bro, delivers what is hands down her best performance in years. Hers is a nimble, textured, deeply felt and thrillingly rousing performance, and every step of the way it's supported by Spielberg's invigoratingly bombastic direction. This is a great director working on the fly, and it adds such a bracing sense of energy and urgency to this story, even when it means that yes, he is unsubtle and occasionally downright embarrassing in his choices, but it all adds up to an exhilaratingly timely and captivating ride. The supporting cast are fantastic and too many to mention. The craft on displays may be occasionally shaky, but redeemed by some of the most iconic costuming of the year, and the writing is empathetic, intelligent, and stirring in its unapologetically progressive politics. This is not your usual prestige awards movie. It's something much more intriguing, a barnstorming entertainment, and a fantastic portrait of a hugely influential female. I'm giving it 4.5 stars.
Look, he could basically tell us that it's, about as interesting as looking at a piece of sandpaper, and I would still be excited, purely just because it's Steven Spielberg.
Good thing it's not,
Well,
hey?
Good, yeah, thank God. But I'm one of those people that has that I can't be objective. I mean, after I see a film and I can admit there are faults in them, but I just am preposterously excited. I mean, everyone's talking about how terrible Ready Player One looks, and I'm just like, no, Spielberg, I'm there.
I love Ready Player One. I've even got a signed copy of the book. Just in the words of RuPaul, don't fuck it up.
Well, it sounds like he hasn't fucked up The Post. Plus, I mean, there's also, because Chris has been going through all of Spielberg's films lately, and we talk a lot about how much we love them, and one of the things we keep bringing up is that Spielberg seems to work at his best when he's working fast. And this film only went into production at the start of this year. Someone handed him the screenplay.
My God, he's done it in 7 days?
He's just that good. Suck it, Ridley Scott.
I think the screenwriter is Liz Hannah.
Yes, Liz Hannah.
I think she's a relatively new screenwriter in Hollywood and wrote this script about the breaking of the Pentagon Papers. And I think from what I've read, Spielberg read the screenplay because someone just happened to hand it to him and instantly decided to do it because he thought there is only one time to do this film, and that is right now. And it's quite incredible that he was able to pull together a cast of this magnitude. It's one of the most...
Oh my God, the cast is bananas.
It is ridiculous.
It's absolutely bananas.
But also just that, his best films have come from when he's been going through gut instinct. Like Jaws is pure gut instinct. He made Jurassic Park and Schindler's List at the same time. He made Munich and War of the Worlds at the same time. So the fact that this has come very quickly, I think is actually a good sign. He's one of those filmmakers that is so innately clued into what cinema can and should be in terms of its possibilities that it works best when he trusts his gut and just does it.
I'm very excited.
It looks solid. It's got a good cast, a seemingly good script, a very strong director, as Daniel just, exploded all over our faces describing.
I have no shame. It's Spielberg. I have no shame.
I think we're obviously in for a good film. I don't think anyone would look at the trailer or look at it and think, don't think that's going to be any good. I better go see Pitch Perfect 3 again.
The reviews, though, when it opened in the States, there was kind of a sense of both surprise and relief to them. Like, I remember the general tone being like, oh my God, this is really good. Like, people saying it's Spielberg's best film since Munich, saying it's one of Meryl Streep's best performances in years.
Better than her in Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again?
We don't know that yet, and I'm sure it'll compare. But also, it just feels very timely. So yeah, I will literally, I will be there tonight. Literally, I will leave work, leave rehearsal, and I will go straight to the cinema, and I will sit down and I will watch this film. I am not waiting.
And he's packed a box of tissues as well.
To cry, yes.
Quite.
No, Daniel, quick question. You're having dinner with David Fincher and Steven Spielberg, and the restaurant goes up in flames, and you only have time to save one. Who is it?
No, I sacrifice myself so they both can live.
Good answer.
And which one have you been touching under the table?
Neither of them.
So yeah, obviously you've got Spielberg, you've got Streep, you've got Hanks, but on top of all that, I think it's just a really fascinating piece of history as well.
Yeah.
That's one of the things which draws me into this. The actual story is so enticing. I love this kind of era of American history, so that's got me tied into it as well.
Yeah.
And it's kind of been a while since we've had a really good period epic. Like, not that I think this is epic. I mean, the cast makes it seem like it's going to be epic. Like, a really great period film about this era, and particularly about reporting. I mean, there's All the President's Men,
What
there's
about
Zodiac.
Spotlight?
I hated Spotlight. Like, violently, angrily hated Spotlight. So I wouldn't put Spotlight in there. I'm sure many people would, but I wouldn't. But particularly about that period, around that kind of Washington Post era where news suddenly began to influence what was happening in American history. Watergate and the Pentagon Papers.
Like
we haven't had a film
Nixon.
like this since probably Zodiac. That's the last time I can think of a really great film about that period in this topic.
But I'm interested to see if Spielberg looks at this film with such a strict historical eye, or if he does try to draw it back into the present, obviously given the current sitting president's volatile relationship with the media and, how relevant this all is.
I think we'll see a lot of parallels.
Yeah, I mean, in Munich, he was very careful to make sure that he was drawing careful parallels to what post 9/11 America. He certainly made films before Munich, probably more so than anything, about a response to the world in which the film is coming out and an understanding of what that film can contribute. So, I hope so too, Jess. And I'm intrigued and excited to see how he handles it. But it's Spielberg. When he's at his best, he is the best. So, yeah.
You can find Chris's full review at maketheswitch.com.au, and The Post is in cinemas now. Also out today is Darkest Hour. Daniel caught this World War II biopic, so how did you find it?
For the third time in 2 years, we have a dramatisation of a moment in the life and career of legendary British Prime Minister Winston Churchill. In Darkest Hour, Churchill, played by Gary Oldman, has just been elected at the start of the Second World War. Very few believe in Churchill, though, and as his tempestuous personality rubs everyone up the wrong way, and Britain hurtles towards defeat and invasion, he is forced to throw his tenacity, conviction, and bloody-mindedness behind a last push to turn the tides of war.
I speak to you for the first time as Prime Minister.
The Germans have encircled 60 British and French divisions. We are looking at a collapse of Western Europe within the next few days.
How long have they got if we don't rescue them?
Maybe 2 days. We would need a miracle to get our men out.
You have the full weight of the world on your shoulders.
We're facing certain defeat on land, the annihilation of our army, and imminent invasion.
We must negotiate peace talks.
When will the lesson be learned? You cannot reason with a tiger when your head is in its mouth!
Nonsense. The only slippery slope.
Would you stop interrupting me while I am interrupting you?
Darkest Hour is easily the strongest of the Churchill biopics, and Oldman is easily the strongest performance of the three. His Churchill is cheeky, bombastic, and energetic. The makeup, though, is horrid, turning Oldman into a weird caricature of the man that is distracting and unnecessary. The film itself is directed with great spirit by Joe Wright, far more fun and tense than you would expect, and with a strong supporting cast. We still have the now very tired narrative of Churchill harasses a new secretary as the through line, but Lily James makes the most out of this thankless part. I really enjoyed Darkest Hour, even with the weak female characters and bad makeup. Oldman isn't Oscar-worthy, but he's still an inspired choice, and in line with his work on Pride and Prejudice, Atonement, and Anna Karenina, Joe Wright finds something fresh in his period approach. A damn good time learning about a damn interesting man. 4 stars from me.
I don't think Gary Oldman gets enough rap these days. And in fact, I don't think he gets enough big roles. Like, I think the last time he was in a film where he was kind of in the lead was probably like around Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
What about Batman? He was in those Batman movies.
Yeah, but he wasn't Batman.
That's okay. He wasn't playing Batman, was
play
he?
Batman. He's too good for Batman.
That is us casting our brains back as far as less than a decade. Gary Oldman during the 80s and 90s was huge, particularly in British cinema. He has been long regarded as one of the best actors of his generation. It's just they're films that were always independent films or small British films. So this is one of the biggest profile international films he's had. Probably the only one I can think of that's equivalent is Tinker Tailor. Though, to be honest, he's better in Tinker Tailor than he is in this.
I think, though, he consistently works. He's always in something. It's not like he's not working.
It's not.
No.
It's a similar thing to Frances McDormand. Like, we talked a few weeks ago about the fact that Frances McDormand very rarely gets a lead role. And yeah, it is really exciting to see Oldman in this lead role. I don't think he deserves the Oscar for it, but he's still very good. Like, he's really great.
But he is great. Like, I love Gary Oldman.
It is interesting to see it as a point of comparison between the other Churchills we've had. So there's been John Lithgow in The Crown, who won a lot of awards for performance that I really didn't like him in it. And then there was Brian Cox in Churchill, which was released early last year. And both of them approached Churchill from like the icon of this grumpy old man. But Oldman kind of gives him this great kick. So there's moments where you literally see this man bounding upstairs in major houses of parliament, which I think is reflected in the screenplay, which is a lot more fun than you expect it to be, and in Joe Wright's kind of playful approach to it. So yeah, it definitely shows off how great a comic actor Gary Oldman is, probably as much as being a dramatic actor.
I think he's just a fantastic character. I mean, people don't want to be branded as character actors anymore, but he does it. And he knows how to do it. And there's that really great British tradition of being a fantastic character actor. And I honestly think he could go into almost any role. Like, anything. He could do anything. He's almost the male equivalent of Tilda Swinton.
Almost.
I mean,
Well, I'm surprised we didn't mention Tilda Swinton's Winston Churchill.
I listened to an interview with Joe Wright where he said that because he was coming off the back of Pan's complete failure and flop, which was the last film he directed, and he said that this screenplay came to him and he was like, it's really good, but what's going to be the selling point? And he said, who would I pay money to see play Winston Churchill? And he was like, Gary Oldman. That's the person I would pay money to see Winston Churchill. And I completely agree. I think it's a great choice. My only misgiving with it is that the makeup is so... It's that thing of they're trying so hard to make him look like Churchill that he stops looking like Gary Oldman, and yet it doesn't fit his physicality, it doesn't fit the shape of his face. It's like they're trying to turn him into something that he isn't. So then I found I wanted to be really invested in his performance, and oftentimes could be. His performance isn't a caricature, his costume and makeup is a caricature. It's a really weird clash that I just don't think quite works. So yeah, he is a great character actor, but weirdly, the way they present Churchill in this kind of hides the fact that he's a great character actor. And you can find my full review at maketheswitch.com.au, and Darkest Hour is in cinemas now.
Also out today is The Nut Job 2, Nutty By Nature. When the evil mayor of Oaktown decides to bulldoze Liberty Park and build a dangerous amusement park in its place, Surly Squirrel and his ragtag group of animal friends need to band together to save their home, defeat the mayor, and take back the park.
This park has everything we need.
But the mayor wants to destroy everything.
I got bigger plans than trees.
An amusement park!
They're gonna destroy the park.
That's not good.
Don't you see? We're all animals, and we need to look out for each other.
We are in this together.
If we want to stop the mayor and his goons,
It's squirrel season.
it's gonna take everyone.
What should we do?
Try to not get killed.
I'll try. But I can't make any promises.
This is gonna be fun.
Despite being the sequel to a film you've probably never heard of, it features an all-star cast including Will Arnett, Katherine Heigl, Maya Rudolph, Jeff Dunham, Bobby Cannavale, and Jackie Chan. So is this one we're all gonna bust a nut over? Oh
My God.
What? Who? Where? How?
Actually, this segues very nicely into our later hot topic of bad films that have sequels for no reason.
I don't even... What was the first Nut Job?
I remember it coming out, and I remember hearing literally nothing about it.
Daniel just thought it was a very different film. He's like, I've seen that multiple times today.
I wish. It had Liam Neeson in it and Brendan Fraser, as well as all of the ones that we've already mentioned.
Lord.
Wow.
How does this tiny little animation end up with all these amazing cast members in it? I just don't understand that. It's
The first one only made 120 million worldwide.
Yeah, but that's enough to... I mean, it doesn't look like it's the most expensive film.
No, the animation looks quite cheap.
Brent, do you want to guess the tagline of the film?
Oh, jeez.
You'll nut yourself. Oh my god, it's no nuts, no glory.
No, that's the first one, isn't it? The first one is no nuts, no glory. The second one, get ready, get set, get nuts. But it also has, and I would like to check whether this is actually qualifies for an Oscar nomination, the original song, which I imagine is written for the film, called Everybody Gets Nuts, performed by a lot of people. A lot of people that I have never heard of.
Like who?
It is written by Alex Duringas, Nikki Leonti, and Will Fuller. It's performed by Luke Edgemon, featuring Will Fuller as the Vil.
I think you made all those up.
Yep, I'm sure Mysteries of Love.
What is happening?
Oscar chances are threatened by Everybody Gets Nuts. Have we talked enough about the Nut Job, do you think?
More than enough. Fucking hell.
We've all busted a nut. It's time to move on.
I hope you've all enjoyed our great discussion on the Nut Job 2 Nutty By Nature, one of the true cinematic events of 2018 that I'm sure you're all going to be running out to cinemas to find. Or maybe just to JB Hi-Fi because it sounds like something that would have gone straight to DVD.
My god, straight to Netflix. Don't spend money on it.
weeks.
Just watch it on Netflix.
All right, now let's check out the upcoming films in our trailer app. Here's the latest trailer for Early Man.
For Doug and his best friend Hognob, every day was great.
Morning, Barry. Mr. Rock coming hunting today?
Wouldn't miss it for the world.
And every night was a party. Until the day everything changed.
To the Badlands!
The Age of Stone is over. Long live the Age of Bronze.
You took our home. If we win, you leave my tribe in peace.
What an idea.
You think you can beat Real Bronzio? I can help.
If we play this game and beat them at it, we can have our valley back.
What happens if you kick the ball in the goal?
Then other men hug and kiss you. I'll give it a go.
Oh, Mum.
Yeah, this looks great. I mean, Aardman is a pretty dependable company. They haven't had a really great film in a while, but this looks incredibly charming. And Nick Park coming back, who created Wallace and Gromit and directed the Wallace and Gromit shorts and film and Chicken Run, is a really good indication of quality. And they've been working on it for a while. They've been talks about Early Man for quite a few years, particularly because a lot of their previous films had been CG augmented. I'm very excited. It looks really good. It's a really well cut together trailer. It gives a good indication of the style and the tone of the film.
This one is, but having said that, this is actually the US trailer. I don't think that the UK trailers have been doing quite a good a job of selling the film. This one's really quite a lot of fun.
What it does really well is sells the sort of like inherent British humour of everything they do. And I'm surprised that they don't do that in the British trailers, because I find that that's probably the most charming part.
I'm guessing it's because the Brits are selling Aardman, where for the US they need to sell the actual film itself.
Well, for the Brits, it's actually kind of like they're selling the soccer element of it, which makes sense because they're a bit, they're soccer nuts. But America cares a little bit less about soccer than
But realistically,
the UK does,
you just say, like, Aardman is an institution in the UK. Like, Aardman have been around since, I think, even the late 70s, early 80s. So they're an institution in the UK. You kind of just have to say it's an Aardman film and everyone's going to go. I mean, we do. We hear it and go, oh, we'll be there.
Yeah.
It also has a really lovely voice cast. And from just the little clips in the trailer, it sounds like it will be one of the better performances that Eddie Redmayne has given in a while. Because it sounds like he's actually allowed to have fun for once. Yeah, it sounds like these performers are having a lot of fun. Tom Hiddleston doesn't even sound like Tom Hiddleston.
Yeah. Tom Hiddleston, yum!
And Maisie Williams doesn't sound like her either.
But I think you're right, Brent. One of the things that is really wonderful about Aardman and really sells this film is its Britishness. They've never relinquished that. Even with their slightly less successful films, they still feel intrinsically British. And considering they're probably the greatest animation house that Britain's ever produced, the fact that they're holding on to the integrity of their style and integrity of their humour is commendable and exciting.
Yeah, and the fact that they've kept the soccer in the film, they haven't pandered to the US audience, which everyone thinks is the be all and end all, and made it football or something a bit more American centric, even though soccer is the most universal sport.
Don't tell the Americans that; they'll just be confused.
But also just note this day, because Daniel a little bit earlier did say, Brent, I do think you were right. So I just like that to be
Excuse me.
put on the record.
We agree
Put it on the record.
We agree on many things. Maybe they don't all have to do with film, but we agree on many things.
The Nut Job 3, things Brent and Daniel agree on.
It's only a short film. It's not feature length.
Oh, speak for yourself, Charlie.
Well, Early Man is out in Australian cinemas on the 29th of March. Now let's take a look at Slender Man.
He gets in your head. Like a virus.
Ooh.
Oh, don't give it that amount of credit.
Yeah. I think about 2 years ago, there was an HBO documentary called Beware the Slender Man, which was made about the girls that ended up stabbing their friend in order to appear Slender Man. This movie does not make it clear whether it is drawing on that real life incident or not, but from what I learnt in the documentary, this also doesn't seem to be drawing on the myth of Slender Man itself anyway.
Is it a good documentary, Jess? Just out of interest, because I've always been meaning to watch it. Is it good?
Yeah, it is actually. It's really interesting because you end up sort of switching sides halfway through. You sort of think one thing and then all of a sudden, something happens. You're like, oh shit, I was on the wrong side the whole time. So it is really interesting. Yeah, I don't know where they're going with this. This seems to have gotten, unfortunately, like in a bad way, the Hollywood treatment where they've sort of taken an idea and they've turned it into their own sort of narrative instead of what, the rest of the world is talking about.
It looks really confused. Like,
it does.
It had elements of like Blair Witchy sort of. Yeah, and then it's The Ring, and
it looks very derivative of The Ring, like stylistically.
Yeah, but like in the trailer, having random clips of like things getting injected and blah blah blah. That's not what we need to see in a trailer because it doesn't tell us what the film is about. It's what we see in a film in like some weird psycho sequence where they're all injecting heroin or whatever, like in
Requiem for a Dream.
Thank you. I'm really good at remembering things at the moment. But like, that's where it kind of works. You don't see it on a trailer, though. On the trailer, you're just like, why am I getting presented random images? Am I meant to be confused by this film? Great.
I actually found it quite a hard trailer to follow. None of it makes sense. The last shot of the trailer of the girl as it's like panning down towards her hands, but they don't show you what it is. That's like, it's just a weird, it's a really bad piece of advertising. And particularly because clearly from the word go, this is not going to be a highbrow horror film. We're not talking about a Babadook or a witch, and it doesn't look like it has any of the wizard intelligence of a studio horror film like Ouija, Origin of Evil, or even The Conjuring. So you would think that the big thing they will use to sell it is Slender Man, this figure that has entered popular culture, and yet
who's pretty much non-existent in the trailer. Yeah,
Like
the thing is, most people thought this was a joke. Like when they heard there was a trailer being released about this film, a lot of people online considered it a joke, and then when it actually came out, there's been such a huge amount of backlash towards it, both from the family who were involved in the actual incident saying it's completely insensitive, but also from people saying, what the fuck is this film? It looks atrocious. Like, why does it exist?
It looks like a fan-made trailer. It looks like a
Yeah.
fan-made trailer someone's popped up on YouTube because it has...
But this is now when the studio takes all this feedback and goes to the editing room.
Yeah,
and they
that's
hack
so
this
true.
thing, pun not intended, they hack this thing to pieces and they try to salvage some sort of halfway decent film. And God knows if it will end up anywhere where it was supposed to begin.
It ends up with a clown in it called Panny Wish or something.
Fanny Wish, the Nut Job 4.
If you look at the credentials of the team behind it, this does not look like a film that is about artistic integrity. Like, it looks like that horrible thing of it's a team that's malleable. Like, this sounds like executives hearing about this idea, going, we should make a film about it. A committee comes up with a story. They get a screenplay. They say, you got to have this, and this, and the director comes out like, you got to have this, and this. I don't think it being edited after the responses to the film, it won't make the film any better, and it won't make the film any worse.
It's just a hot mess.
Yeah.
All right, finally, let's take a look at the new trailer for Death Wish.
Honey? Can you please come down here? No. Joy, run!
Doc, something has happened. You can't go in there.
Dad, where's Mom?
I love my family. I failed to protect them.
I'm sorry, Dr. Kersey, nothing yet.
So there's nothing that I can do? Is that what you're saying?
Can I have faith?
If a man really wants to protect what's his, he has to do it for himself.
The men who did it are out there. I'm gonna hunt them down. One by one.
I had homies in the 11th grade doing gun trades out at the dark.
We're closed, pal.
You're Joey, right?
Yeah?
Well, kill my wife!
Who else was there? I don't know anything else.
You're not a cop!
Somebody has to do it.
Step away, you can't take the heat on the battleground.
Everybody's watching this viral video. Is this dude right for taking the law into his own hands?
Hey!
Is he a hero?
He saved my life.
Or is it wrong?
You're cocked, locked, and ready to rock.
I honestly think if I have to sit through that trailer again, let alone the entire film, I will be the one with the death wish.
Christ. Yeah, it doesn't look pretty.
Are you talking about Bruce Willis's face or just the whole film?
But also like Bruce Willis just in general, his performance looks like, I think Brent, you said it was something like Arnie's, like comparable in terms of the kind of delivery for some of those lines. It just looks so bad. I don't understand.
Let's be honest, Bruce Willis is turning into a parody of himself.
He is. Ring, ring. Hello, it's Bruce Willis. Give me my lines.
Hello, Bruce Willis. I have to do an action scene again. Oh no, my daughter's been taken or something. Let's go find her. By the way, I'm also a doctor.
Oh, right. I dead set laughed out loud when he came out as a doctor. I'm like, oh, it's a comedy called Death Wish. That's odd. And then the rest of the trailer played, I was like, oh no.
The best bit is when it's like, you're not a cop. And he's like, I know, but I have to be. And it's just like, oh God, stupid.
He didn't whisper that. He like yelled that at the top of his voice. 90% of the dialogue in the trailer is yelled, which is also another thing I really hate about it. There's just going to be so much aggression in this film.
My question is, Who has the death wish? Is it his death wish for everyone else? Does he have a death wish for himself? Do they want us to have more death wishes for ourselves? It's very confusing.
We should probably point out to our listeners exactly what Death Wish is. It is a remake of a 1974 film by the same name, which starred Charles Bronson. It is directed by director Eli Roth, who directed Hostel.
What's Eli Roth doing here? What's
I reckon
going on?
Eli Roth is being a director for hire. Like, when was the last time Eli Roth made anything successful?
So true.
The bigger name on it is that Joe Carnahan wrote the screenplay, who wrote The A-Team and Narc and Smokin' Aces and Grey and a whole bunch of other very masculine sounding, like, shoot things, films that no one wants to think about.
It's a remake nobody wanted.
It looks like a film made specifically for guys to go and watch one of their heroes go and shoot. Heterosexual guys to go watch one of their heroes shoot a bunch of people, say some quippy lines, and there's a few hot women in there.
This is an Eli Roth film, so where's the gratuitous nudity and sex?
Coming soon
where's
to a cinema near you.
Gratuitous, gross and violence. Where's Keanu Reeves? Where's...
It does remind me so much of John Wick. I was like, this looks like a shitty John Wick.
Yeah, it kind of does.
But my question is, why is there an entire team of guys going into Bruce Willis's house to kill 2 people? Or one person. It looks like the wife dies in the trailer, but it's a SWAT team that kills them, and so then he spends the next 2 hours likely killing 14 people who robbed a seemingly innocent doctor's house. Why? Stupid. Everything about this looks stupid.
Well, if you dare, you can check out all of those trailers and more by heading to youtube.com/MakeTheSwitchAU.
The biggest film news this week was the announcement of the Golden Globes, which kicks the award season into a new gear. And Chris and I, because of our very high opinions and enthusiasm for the award season, have a lot of opinions about them. So
Just one or two.
Just one or two. The big thing that came out of the evening was Oprah's Cecil B. DeMille speech, which had not just a significant impact in the room by the looks of the broadcast, but also had a massive impact on social media. Why do you think that is, Chris?
Well, it's just such a fantastic speech. Regardless of the context that it comes into or who Oprah is, it's just such a fantastic speech.
I mean, it has an impact on you listening because of the conviction of it, and also because of the timing. It's quite a magnificent way that she's able to pull so many disparate threads about all of the many movements that are happening in the world right now and tie them in beautifully together. The look on Laura Dern's face. I mean, Laura Dern. So,
The face.
The face. Meryl Streep whooping in the corner and Claire Foy's, steel face.
What I found most moving, actually, speaking of faces, was Ashley Judd.
Yeah.
Who has been so central to this whole thing and looked so, magnificent, but also so moved and so constantly highlighted. It was really fantastic.
Because political statements through award ceremonies and this kind of stuff always feels a bit perfunctory. This felt a little bit more punchy. Also because it went out further than just the Oprah speech into what I think was the best moment of the entire night, which was...
the moment that I could write essays and essays about.
Which Queen, Natalie Portman, and the all-male nominees are. That was the moment where I thought this is more than just customary making a statement. It felt there was active, that something was happening.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the awards themselves, of which we have...
some thoughts.
Mixed feelings.
Yeah.
I mean, TV's easy. TV was great. We were Big Little Lies, Handmaid's Tale. The winners were they were all the expected.
Sterling K. Brown.
The winners were expected, but they were ones that were really exciting.
Yeah.
Film, however, was. I mean, there were the obvious ones like Frances McDormand winning for 3 Billboards.
Such a fantastic speech.
Alison Janney was kind of expected for I, Tonya, so that wasn't necessarily the biggest surprise. And obviously very happy that Lady Bird won Best Picture in a Comedy, which is a film we both passionately love.
Oh, so passionately.
And Saoirse Ronan winning Best Actress in a Comedy was also a
With
great...
her mum on FaceTime. Oh my God, I died.
The real winner of the evening was Martin McDonagh's 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. And the response... I mean, obviously, we would be following people online that are similar in thoughts to us, but the response online seems to be a bit shocked, mostly because I think a lot of film critics and film buffs on social media don't necessarily feel that it was the deserving film.
I mean, 3 Billboards started out very well in the race, but it's becoming more and more polarizing And I think, though we have spoken about it on the podcast where Jess gave her 4-star review, but Daniel and I hadn't seen it at that point, we do have to say that
we fucking hate it.
Yeah.
And it did feel its success in screenplay, in picture, in supporting actor. Supporting actor, Sam Rockwell, really? Like, what? So, I guess as a wrap-up, the Golden Globes were a little bit of a disappointment, but
I think I do have to say that the conversation around the Golden Globes always seems slightly skewed to me because the Golden Globes kind of don't mean anything.
No.
They're kind of thought of as this Oscars precursor, but they're not as telling as they once were. If anything, I think the Golden Globes are best for kind of steering the conversation.
But the Golden Globes is just the start of the big major 3 in the award season. We still have the BAFTAs, which have only had their nominations this week, and they were eclectic at best. And the Oscars still to come. So keep an ear out on future episodes of SWITCHCast as we tear apart the other award seasons.
Yay!
I think we all know how the model works. A film is slightly successful, or very successful, and the studios decide to capitalize on this and create a sequel. So now we have 20 Fast and the Furious movies and a second Pacific Rim film, and now even the very mediocre Bright has been confirmed for a follow-up on Netflix. So why do we keep getting sequels to generally considered bad movies? And what's the worst sequel you guys have seen to a bad film? And more importantly, what's a bad film you'd like to see get a sequel?
In relation to your first question, I don't have a fucking clue. I don't know. It's one of the great mysteries of Hollywood. It's like, didn't you hear that no one liked that? Didn't you see that it didn't make very much money? And yet you still persist. Honestly, I have no answer to this question.
Bright turned out to be Netflix's biggest opening or most popular film ever in the first week. But my question is wouldn't you really judge success on repeat viewings? Because even I watched Bright. Look, I thought it was terrible from the get-go, but it had an interesting concept and it piqued my interest, so I had a look at it. And yeah, it was absolutely terrible. But nowhere ever would I ever recommend it or even consider watching it again and flat out, blacklisting the sequel. But, because there are no box office dollars to base this on, you've got to go with repeat viewings. This was universally critically panned, absolutely dragged through the mud. And yeah, you sit there and go, okay, got a lot of eyeballs in the first week, but that doesn't mean people liked it. That doesn't mean people are going to watch lining up for the sequel.
Also, it's probably just Will Smith paying a bunch of people to watch the movie or just paying a bunch of computers to watch the movie.
It wasn't a cheap movie either.
Yeah.
It's like an $80-90 million budget, which is a lot for something that's straight to Netflix, because for them to be able to recoup that money, it's tricky.
It's a lot of subscriptions.
The fact that they are greenlighting a sequel so soon after is really strange decision to me.
I have a feeling that the sequel for Bright was actually already in development, which is actually, I think, in answer to your question, Brent, I think that actually ends up being a lot of the reasons why a lot of really bad films end up having sequels, because a lot of the times the studio is anticipating a success, and so they put the film into production. I mean, there's exceptions to like Pacific Rim. It had to work very hard to get itself a sequel. I mean, I still don't know why it's getting one. But in answer to your other question, Brent, worst thing you've seen to a bad film? I don't know. I usually don't watch the sequels to bad films.
I was saying this before, it is nearly impossible now to watch Austin Powers Goldmember, but I really enjoyed the first one, but the third one was just awful. Oh, and actually, speaking of sequels to watching bad films, I recently watched almost all of the Scary Movies up to Scary Movie 5, and who knows why they kept making those.
Oh, God. After Anna Faris left, no.
Are you inclined to watch a sequel to a bad film?
I guess that depends if it's good bad or bad bad.
Yeah, because Charlie makes me go and see movies.
Yep.
Okay, can I throw out my example here? Is the Sex and the City movies.
Oh, yeah.
I was a massive fan of the TV series, and then the first movie came out, and even as big a fan as I was, I knew how bad that first movie was. And then all of a sudden it made $1 gazillion, and they're like, okay, now we're going to make a sequel. It's like, oh, please, dear God, no. The first film didn't need to be made. Like, the series wrapped up beautifully. It didn't need to be continued. And then they made the second one, which was, I didn't think it could get any worse than the first film, but it did. Like, tenfold. And then in the last 12 months, they've been up in arms because the third one isn't going to be made because Kim Cattrall has pulled out. It's like, dude, she did us all a favour. Now we don't have to sit through a third Sex and the City movie. This woman needs to be given a medal, not, shunned and berated on Twitter.
Hadashi.
We all know that I like terrible movies.
This is news
and
to me.
One of my favorite movies of all time, Charlie, is The Mummy, the Brendan Fraser, Rachel Weisz Mummy. It's excellent.
You're going to come out and say that The Mummy is a bad film?
No, it's not.
I will come for you.
I absolutely loved Mummy 2, The Mummy Returns, or whatever it was.
It's really good. Like, it's surprisingly solid. Yeah.
The only problem is when they got to Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, they fucked it.
Yeah.
And that's because it was far too long. The Mummy, no one was interested anymore. But those were two, I know that they're not considered great films, but Mummy and Mummy Returns, I think, is an example of some excellent sequel-ness.
I mean, there's also weird examples of terrible films that have great sequels, like the Ouija prequel, sequel, continuation is great when the first one is a turgid fucking mess. But Brent's question, what bad films would you like to see get a sequel?
Well, I think we all know my answer. I want to see a Van Helsing sequel.
And the rest of the world does not.
And I want to see a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen sequel.
Great, that's done. Moving on. Let's go on. Who else?
I'd like to see a sequel to Biodome.
Oh,
God.
Yeah, I do. Because I love Pauly Shore, and I thought those two characters were hilarious, and they could carry on an entire franchise. They were the best. Biodome.
I'd really like to see a sequel to Mamma Mia. Oh, wait. Oh, I'm getting one.
Oh, but wait.
Oh no.
More 50 Shades of Grey. 3 isn't enough.
Oh my God, I watched 50 Shades of Grey the other day. It's on Netflix, and I was like, there's one sex scene in this whole fucking movie, and it's not even that naughty. So he ties her hands up. Oh, move on.
There's more eroticism in Elio's peach than there is in the entirety of 50 Shades of Grey.
That would be hard.
There's
more. Spoiler alert.
There's more eroticism in League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
I tricked a friend of mine into watching 50 Shades of Grey because I'd never seen it and he didn't want to see it. So me and Paul and his boyfriend, we tricked.
You're such a nice person.
I know. The one scene he loved, because he hated it. We all hated it. The one scene he loved was the contract negotiation because he's a lawyer. And he got really excited and really into it and then continued on.
Wrong kind of excited.
I want to see a sequel. To finish this off, I want to see a sequel, and I'm so upset it hasn't happened yet. I want to see a sequel to Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters. That's what I want.
Your wish may come
not
true.
The first time you've
you
said
never
that.
know.
I hope it does. I want to see how he navigates his diabetes.
I feel like Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunter is on par with Van Helsing. They're the same kind of film.
Yeah, but I watched that one, and I don't want to watch the other one.
You haven't watched Van Helsing or League of Extraordinary Gentlemen? We need to have this movie night. This is disgusting.
Oh, do we?
I think Paul would be up for it.
Paul would definitely be up for it.
Paul would, as long as you plied Paul with a lot of wine, I'm sure he would be fine.
Yeah, there'll be wine. It's a movie night.
What? Next topic? What's that? Jess, do you have something you want to say?
Thank you, Daniel, for that lovely segue. Okay, this week saw the release of a controversial new book about the inside of the White House during Trump's first year in office. A fake excerpt of said book has since gone viral, explaining Trump's obsession with a non-existent 24-hour guerrilla channel. Which got me thinking, what 24-hour channel would we like to see come to fruition? Obviously, the first one, first and foremost, and obviously, is puppies.
Puppies, kittens.
Puppies.
Oh my God, baby pandas.
Baby pandas.
Baby pandas being cheeky with their owners or the zookeepers. That's my favorite thing to watch when I feel sad. I go on YouTube and look up baby panda videos. What else would I like to see? I'd like to see a 24-hour channel of people falling over.
Isn't that Australia's Funniest Home Videos?
24-hour channel of people getting hit in the schnutz.
I'd like to see a 24-hour beautiful succulent garden or maybe wind blowing through trees. That would be calming.
No, you're thinking too small. Too small. No, I want a 24-hour channel of all my favorite episodes of shows I watched between the ages of, say, 5 and 15.
So that's actually
like all my favorite Full
network.
Houses and all my favorite Sabrinas and all my favorite... There's a show called Breakaway High that I loved with Ryan Gosling in it, and all my favorite Simpsons episode and Friends episode, just 24-hour, all my favorite episodes of shows I watched between the ages of 5 and 15.
When I turned up in the States, the day we arrived, Comedy Central started a marathon of running every single episode of South Park from the very beginning of the show right through to so it would sync up with the start of the new season. So it ran for pretty much the whole first 2 weeks I was in the States, and it was fucking glorious.
Yeah.
We just turned on the TV and there's South Park. I want, though, a 24-hour channel of very adept people contacting books with plastic. I would find that really satisfying.
God, that's
because
like...
I contact all of my books, so I would sit there going,
That would be
Move to
porn
Bangkok,
to
that
me.
Christmas special where it's just wrapping presents.
oh my God, a 24-hour channel that is just people buying stationery.
Walking around office works. Point of
What
view.
they need is like, instead of that whole like home buyers bullshit, people going and complaining about houses because they've got a bad color of paint or whatever, which I love. There's a channel in Australia called 9 Life, which I basically watch all the time.
Paul is obsessed with this channel.
Me too.
That's all he watches.
This is why Paul and I are the best people in the world. They need a 9 Life channel like that, but instead of them buying houses, it's maybe buying stationery, or somebody doesn't quite know which printer they want to buy, and it's just all set in Officeworks. 24-hour Officeworks channel.
I actually find interesting, though, the fact that people believed this guerrilla channel thing for Trump. I mean, it's funny, so you want to believe it, but that people wanted to find it. Like, why would people want to watch gorillas for 24
Netflix harassed
hours?
because people think that it's real.
But why do people want to see it?
I think they just expect anything
They want
from
to get
Trump
inside
these days.
Trump's
I think that's
twisted mind.
No, but like people wanting to watch it themselves.
But there are so many live streams on the internet where you can just watch something for 24 hours. Like those falcons in Melbourne, and one of the babies died. It was so sad. On Collins Street. But you can watch a live stream of this falcon nest on a building in Melbourne. And it's on a website where there's all these different things that you can just watch, where they put a camera somewhere and you can watch.
People are just being lazy. Just go on the internet. All this shit exists. Why do you need it to play on a fucking Netflix? Just like,
but that said,
on.
There's a moving away from high impacts, really in your face content to what they've been, this new term that's been described as slow TV. So I'm pretty sure recently in like Norway, they have this beautiful train ride from Oslo to somewhere else through this Scandinavian wilderness. And they put that on TV. It's like a 4-hour train trip, and it got huge viewers. Everyone just put it on their TV and let it run. It's this slow TV. So actually, there's been an Australian version of it now where they're doing the Garn, which is the most famous Australian train trip. But they've basically just strapped a camera on the front of the Garn, and it's going to be on live TV as well, not just on
live.
streamable. You can watch this.
God.
Well, not live, but you know what?
Don't forget that Channel 31 in Melbourne had Fish Cam, which was literally turning your TV into a fish tank. And then a friend of mine who's a comedian made another version which was called Cat Cam, which was kind of taking the piss out of it, but it was cats.
I'd love that. But I just find it really interesting that now in this like sort of oversaturated media environment, there's been a call for a slower, more gentle viewing experience of just watching a train trip for 5 hours.
But that's horrible. Why leave your house, experience the world yourself, when you can just watch it on TV?
But with Netflix as well, they have, remember, that oscillating fan, they have the fire crackling, they have all of these different like weird slow TV things that you can watch that'll just ruin your algorithm if you watch them, by the way.
I've yet to experience.
What I'm hearing is what we need is a 24-hour channel that plays Terrence Malick films non-stop over and over again, because that's seriously basically what you're asking.
Speaking of a 24-hour channel that they do need to have, 24-hour Tilda Swinton, I'd be there.
Did you guys see a few months ago they released an 8-hour sheep film, which is very similar? It's literally just...
Oh, wasn't it to help you go to sleep or something? It was like counting. Wasn't it based on like the counting sheep thing?
It's relaxation, not necessarily sleep, but it's 8 hours. The best part of it is it's called Baba Land.
So good.
Please tell me there's a moment in it where they all of a sudden break out and do Another Day of Sun and they perform it. That would just make me...
But all with Baz.
It's just sheep walking around to like this really calming music. But the tagline of the film is, the dullest movie ever made? We think so. We hope you did too.
Well, look, that's the thing though. This is the content people are wanting now for some reason.
Fuck storytelling. fuck millions of years of like the development of the narrative and the development of like
Let's get back to
forms
real
of storytelling.
life. This is
just wanna watch a
reality. This is
fucking
real
sheep
reality TV.
Just put a camera on a river.
We just wanted to watch a fucking sheep take a shit in a field. That's really what we want to watch. That's really it.
It's come full circle, really.
The fact that none of these channels that we wish for exist, but we can occupy your time with another huge TV prize back up for grabs this week.
It's a very good segue, Jess.
Anyway, we're giving away Pan Am, the complete series, Powers, Season 1, In Plain Sight, the complete collection, and The Expanse, Season 1.
We're also giving you the chance to win one of 5 double passes to see Liam Neeson's The Commuter in cinemas. After being contacted by a mysterious stranger, he's forced to uncover the identity of a hidden passenger on the train before the last stop. As he works against the clock to solve the puzzle, he soon realizes he's unwittingly caught up in a criminal conspiracy, one that carries life and death stakes for him and all of his fellow passengers. To enter this and all of our great giveaways, head to maketheswitch.com.au/comps now. Now, before we go, we'd like to offer you some cinematic inspiration with each of us suggesting one film that you should see this week and why. For me, I'm going to take us back to 2015 this week. This is a really small but absolutely amazing comedy. I honestly can't believe it hasn't gotten more attention, mainly because it features such good performances from Simon Pegg and Lake Bell in the main roles. It is Man Up, and it is
I forgot that film
brilliant
existed.
filmmaking.
We've had conversations about this film. Like 6-7 years ago. But we had conversations about this film.
Definitely not 6 or 7 years ago. It came out in 2015.
Whatever. It's like it was that long.
He literally started with, I'm taking you back to 2015.
It's my day off.
I actually said it twice.
Have a brain today.
But essentially, Lake Bell plays this woman who is kind of out on her luck with love, and she meets this other woman on a train and ends up going on her blind date with Simon Pegg's character. And hilarity ensues. There's a lot of alcohol. There's a lot of inappropriateness. There's a lot of trying to taunt Simon Pegg's ex-wife, who he's still kind of hung up over. But it actually ends up being this really sweet love story as well, on top of all this comedy. And honestly, Simon Pegg and Lake Bell are just such a delight to watch on screen. I'd very happily see them do anything. Lake Bell is just freaking amazing. So yeah,
She's so good.
My suggestion: Man Up. Jessica, your turn. What have you got for us this week?
Oh, okay. I've got a good one. Like I don't every week, please. No, this one because due to my complete and utter love to Goldie Hawn, I'm going with 1980s Private Benjamin. For anyone who doesn't know this movie, for shame. So it's written by Nancy Myers. Love. It was directed by Howard Ziff, who also directed the 2 My Girl films. Love. 1980, Goldie Hawn plays a woman called Judy Benjamin, and she's a very upper middle class, very well-to-do, sort of princessy kind of woman, and her husband dies on her. Well, on her, under her, if you get what I mean, on their wedding night. And so sort of in a state of despair and sort of disrepair, she ends up joining the army. And obviously she's not the right fit for it, and it all kind of goes from there. So it's a comedy. It's about self-discovery and female power, and it's fantastic, and it's really, really funny, and it's just brilliant. And also fun fact of the day: if you look really, 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 really closely at Goldie Hawn's stomach, you'll see there's a little Kate Hudson in there.
What with Kate Hudson?
In her belly. Hello, everyone.
I mean, you've been very subtle about that. But
yes. Anyway, yes. So Private Benjamin from 1980. Enjoy.
Excellent. Daniel, you're up next. What have you got for us this week?
Well, it seems like we're all going for fun, comic kind of films. And I'm continuing the trend. But I'm taking us back to 1938 with Hitchcock's cracking thriller, The Lady Vanishes. This is a film that's been endlessly imitated, but in its original form, it's just an absolute cracker of a film. It's set on a train traveling across Europe, and a young woman named Iris Henderson, who's played by Margaret Lockwood, makes friends with an older lady on the train, Miss Froy, played by Mae Whitty. They become quite close on the train, become good friends, and then they're sitting on the train having some food. Iris falls asleep, wakes up, and Miss Froy is gone. And nobody on the train acknowledges that she was ever there to begin with. So then it becomes Iris trying to find out what happened to this woman who everybody on the train is convinced never existed. And the only person she has to help him is a man by the name of Gilbert, played by Michael Redgrave, who has a bit of the hots for her, so kind of helps her. And they start to unravel this really great little mystery on this train.
Is this just like that Jodie Foster movie where she's got the
Jodie
daughter
Foster
on the plane?
film is a remake of The Lady Vanishes. It's the same concept. But imagine that, but imagine it with a really witty script, really witty and clever and quick direction. It only runs for 96 minutes, so it's a nice, compact film. The supporting cast is fantastic. The supporting characters are fantastic. It was the film that got Hitchcock out of Britain and into the States. It was, I think, one of his biggest successes. And it's so much fun. I just love it. It's so much fun. The Lady Vanishes. Go find it. It's great.
Gotta love some Hitchcock. All right, Brent, you are last but not least. What is on your agenda for this week?
You're going to bring the mood down with intense drama?
No, of course not.
Some dark moody shit for us.
I'm going for a bit of a theme this January with my recommendations. So I'm going for a bit of like a sci-fi-y sort of thing. So my recommendation, if you haven't seen it, is an absolute classic, infinitely referenced, Barbarella, starring Jane Fonda.
Oh my God.
It is classic. It is camp. It is kind of terrible, but also kind of brilliant. And you just can't help but enjoy yourself watching it. It's where Duran Duran got their name from, and band from the 80s that I absolutely love. I just couldn't enjoy this film more. I especially love there's a bit where she's...
because Jane Fonda's not enjoying making it in the slightest. So it's good you're enjoying watching it.
Isn't she? What?
No, she had a horrible time making that film.
Yeah. Oh, no way.
I've just been listening to the You Must Remember This season on Jane Fonda. It's really fascinating how much she feel like she misjudged the decision to do Barbarella. But continue, because you enjoy it. So talk about how wonderful
it is. It's one of her most iconic roles, though.
Yeah, I think it's about feminism in that
doesn't mean she enjoyed it.
70s. I think it's just about the representation of women at that period that she was worrying about.
Yeah, fair enough. The film does start with her taking off all of her clothes in zero gravity. Also, my favorite bit is when she's in like a cage of what appear to be just like budgies, and they're attacking her because she's been sentenced to death, and she says, "No, this is too beautiful a way to die." And they're basically like tiny canaries. It's phenomenal. And just go see it. You'll enjoy yourself.
Budgies.
Really will. It's too beautiful a way to die.
And I'd happily argue that she's actually much better in Grace and Frankie, but anyway, that's just me.
Oh, I'm sure she is. Come on, there's no denying Jane Fonda's a force to be reckoned with. But what a fun film. Enjoy. Maybe get some Pinot Gris.
Well, some fantastic suggestions, and you can find the links to all the articles we've talked about on this week's podcast at maketheswitch.com.au. Please subscribe to SWITCHCast on iTunes or your favorite podcast platform, and don't forget to rate us. And stay in touch on Twitter. I'm at Charlie_David, Jess.
At Miss Jess_Switch.
Daniel.
At Daniel Lemon.
And Brent.
At Brent C. Davidson, once again, the letter and not the body of water.
Thank you for the clarification.
I'd like to know which specific body of water it's not one day.
Any of them.
Well, you'll find out.
Like it, follow it. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at MakeTheSwitchAU to stay up to date with all the latest reviews, news, trailers, and giveaways.
And you can find all the notes and links to everything we've discussed on this week's podcast, as well as other episodes by visiting switchcast.com.au.
On next week's show, I'll have my verdict on two very different films. Number one being the most hotly anticipated film of 2018 for me, Maze Runner: The Death Cure, still alive after the car. And the second being Mary and the Witch's Flower. I can't wait, and neither can you.
Plus, it's all aboard the Liam Neeson Express as I take a ride on the commuter. That sounds so good.
What have we become?
And we'll have our verdict on Golden Globe winning director Guillermo del Toro's The Shape of Water. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you all next week.